The jungle breathed around them. Each leaf seemed to exhale mist, the thick air heavy with the scent of alien flora. Commander Elias, Reaper, Kane crouched in the underbrush, motionless, his eyes scanning through the green haze of his visor. A bead of sweat rolled down his temple, but he didn't move to wipe it away. Ahead, the faint hum of Dominion patrol drones hovered over the muffled clatter of boots. "Ava, report," Kane whispered, his voice just a ripple in the comms. 3 tangos. Standard Threxian infantry, replied Sergeant Ava, Shadow, Lennox, her tone clipped but calm. From her elevated position in the treetops, she could see what Kane couldn't. Armed with plasma casters. Movements sloppy. They're not expecting us. They will if you keep chatting, muttered Lieutenant Marcus Forge Alden. He adjusted the charge pack on his plasma rifle, his broad shoulders blending with the dense jungle shadows. Enough, Kane interjected, his voice sharp but controlled. We stick to the plan. No mistakes. Mistakes weren't an option. Not here, not now. Threxos Prime wasn't just another hostile planet, it was a death trap. The Dominion had seeded the ecosystem with bioengineered predators that made Earth's most dangerous wildlife look tame. The squad's mission to sabotage the Dominion's rumored superweapon was already skating the edge of impossible. Through his visor, Kane marked their positions with a quick glance. Dr. Elena Cross, the team's xenobiologist and medic, held her scanner steady, her brows furrowed in concentration as she analyzed the lifeforms nearby. Forge crouched behind a massive root, his demolition kit slung over one shoulder. Shadow's heat signature pulsed faintly above, her sniper rifle at the ready. All clear on my end, Elena whispered. No signs of wildlife. Yet. Kane nodded. Shadow, you're the trigger. Wait for my signal. The jungle trembled slightly as the patrol came closer. The Threxians were tall, hulking creatures with segmented, insectoid exoskeletons that gleamed in the faint light. They carried their weapons loosely, mandibles clicking softly in an unspoken rhythm. Wait! Shadow's voice tightened. They've got a live one! What? Kane's heart stuttered. He adjusted his visor, zooming in on the patrol. Shadow was right. Dragging behind the group was a figure, human. The captive's uniform was torn, his face bloodied, but the insignia on his shoulder was unmistakable, Terran Recon Corps. They've been hunting us, Forge growled. Kane clenched his jaw. A rescue would compromise the mission. But leaving him? That wasn't something Kane could stomach. His team was waiting for orders, silent but tense. Shadow, Kane said, his voice cold and decisive. Prioritize the mission. Take out the patrol leader first. Forge, cover our flank. Elena, stay back and monitor the area. We're going in. Shadow's rifle hissed. The Threxian squad leader's head snapped back, a clean hole through the center of its skull. For a split second, the jungle held its breath. Contact! One of the soldiers shrieked in a guttural voice, its plasma caster spinning to life. Kane surged forward, his rifle spitting precision bursts of blue plasma. Forge followed, laying suppressive fire as Shadow picked off the remaining soldiers with surgical efficiency. The air filled with the crack of gunfire and the high-pitched whine of alien energy weapons. Clear! Kane barked as the last Threxian collapsed, smoke rising from its smoldering exoskeleton. The human prisoner sagged to his knees, coughing blood. Kane knelt beside him, pulling a medkit from his belt. Name? Lieutenant Aaron Vale, the man rasped. His eyes darted wildly. Recon outpost compromised. They know everything. The weapon's real. It's close. You have to stop it. Kane's stomach sank. Vale's condition was worse than he'd hoped. A jagged wound on his side oozed dark red, and his breaths were shallow. Elena, Kane called. She hurried forward, her medkit already open. This isn't good. Internal damage. He needs evac now. Kane's face hardened. We don't have time. Can he move? Vale grabbed Kane's arm, his grip surprisingly strong. Forget me. Data's in my vest. Coordinates, weapon sight. His head slumped forward, unconscious. Kane pulled the data chip from Vale's vest and slid it into his wrist console. A holographic map flickered to life, marking a location deeper in Dominion territory. Got it, he muttered, his mind already working through the next steps. Elena's voice was soft but firm. Kane, he's not going to make it without help. Kane met her eyes. We move forward. The mission comes first. She flinched but said nothing, returning to stabilize Vale as best she could. The jungle closed in around them as they advanced toward the new coordinates. Every step felt heavier, the oppressive heat seeping into their bones. The Dominion wasn't going to let this go unnoticed. Hours later, Shadow's voice crackled in the comms. We've got a problem. Ahead, motion sensors. And something big. Kane signaled for the team to halt, his hand tightening around his rifle. Through the trees, a massive creature lumbered into view. It was some hybrid nightmare, part reptile, part insect, its claws glinting like steel in the dim light. Dominion bioengineering at its finest. Forge? Kane asked quietly. Got a charge that'll drop it. Forge replied, already reaching for his pack. No time, Kane said. Shadow, take the shot. A single suppressed crack. The creature screeched, stumbling before collapsing in a heap. Target down, Shadow confirmed. Kane exhaled, adrenaline still coursing through him. The team pushed forward, their movements sharper, more urgent. The air thickened as they neared the Dominion outpost, a faint energy hum vibrating through the ground. Shadow's voice came through again, low and tense. Commander, you're going to want to see this. They crept to the edge of a clearing, where the Dominion facility loomed like a fortress of alien metal and shimmering light. Threxian soldiers patrolled in tight formations, their movements sharp and disciplined. At the center, Overseer Vracael stood, his towering form unmistakable. Kane's breath caught. This wasn't just another Dominion officer, this was their hunter, the architect of every recent human defeat in the Omega Quadrant. Shadow, mark the target, Kane whispered. We need eyes on the weapon. Yes, sir. But as Shadow adjusted her sights, Vracael turned, his piercing gaze sweeping the jungle as if he could sense them. Kane froze. Hold position. No one moves. The Overseer's mandibles clicked, his voice carrying over the clearing like a serrated blade. Humans. Always watching. Always hunting. Let them come. This time, they will learn fear. Kane's grip tightened on his rifle. They weren't just on the offensive. They were walking straight into the jaws of a predator. The jungle was quieter now, an unnatural stillness creeping into the humid air. It wasn't just the Dominion patrols, or what was left of them. The jungle itself seemed to sense the tension. Commander Elias, Reaper, Kane felt it too, a weight pressing against his chest as they approached the Dominion outpost. Shadow, Kane said quietly, his eyes scanning the shifting foliage. Status? Perimeter's light on guards, Shadow replied, her voice steady through the comms. I've got 4 sentries at 2 o'clock, rotating in intervals. The energy signature's coming from the central structure. That's gotta be our target. Forge, crouching just behind Kane, smirked. Light guard means they're hiding something nasty inside. Elena Cross gave Forge a sidelong glance, her medical scanner tucked away for now. Let's hope it's just nasty tech and not another one of their bio creatures. Focus, Kane said, his tone brooking no argument. He studied the holographic map on his wrist console. The Dominion facility sprawled like a spiked beast in the clearing ahead. Its walls pulsed faintly with an eerie bioluminescence, a feature Kane had seen before. Those walls were alive, reactive, and dangerous. We go in quiet, Kane continued, his voice dropping to a near whisper. Shadow, find high ground. I want Overwatch the moment we breach. Forge, you're on perimeter suppression. Plant charges on the north and south towers for a diversion. Elena, stay close and keep your eyes open for anything that doesn't belong. And if it's all alien tech? Elena asked, her voice tight. Then stay close to me, Kane replied. The team moved as one, their training seamless in the face of danger. Shadow vanished into the treetops, her form blending into the shadows. Forge muttered something about more toys to blow up as he disappeared toward the north wall. Elena followed Kane, her steps light but deliberate, the tension between them palpable after his earlier decision to prioritize the mission over the captive's survival. Minutes passed, each one thick with anticipation. Kane reached the outpost's eastern edge, signaling for Elena to stop. He placed a hand on the wall, feeling its faint hum beneath his glove. Dominion structures weren't just built, they were grown, bioengineered to adapt and protect themselves. Forge, Kane said softly. Status? Charges planted on the north side. Forge replied, his voice tinged with satisfaction. South's next. Give me 5. You've got 3. Pushy as always, Commander, Forge muttered. Elena knelt beside Kane, her scanner humming faintly. The energy signature's stronger here. It's drawing power from something deep underground. If the weapon's down there. It is, Kane said grimly. The comms crackled softly. Shadow here. I've got eyes on the main entrance. 2 guards at the door, heavily armed. They've got a patrol route that overlaps every 90 seconds. No sign of reinforcements yet. Take the guards when the charges go off, Kane ordered. Forge, give me a green light on those towers. Almost there, Forge replied. Kane's muscles tensed as he counted down the seconds. Finally, Forge's voice came through, laced with triumph. South tower's rigged. Ready to light it up. Do it, Kane said. The jungle erupted with twin explosions. The north and south towers crumbled in fiery bursts, sending debris and alien metal raining down. Shadow's rifle barked twice, her shots precise, dropping the door guards before they could react. Move! Kane barked, leading Elena through the breach. Inside, the air was cooler but no less oppressive. The walls glowed faintly, casting strange shadows that seemed to shift with their movements. Dominion architecture was always disorienting, with corridors that spiraled unnaturally and ceilings that seemed to curve endlessly upward. Elena, Kane said, gesturing to the scanner. She nodded, her hands steady as she activated it. Energy levels are spiking. Whatever they're powering, it's just ahead. The team advanced cautiously, every step calculated. Kane's rifle was steady, his senses sharp. They passed what looked like a laboratory, rows of pods filled with glowing blue liquid. Inside were creatures, some half-formed, others twitching as if alive. What the hell is this? Elena whispered, her face pale. Dominion experiments, Kane said grimly. They don't just fight wars. They breed them. A guttural voice echoed down the corridor, alien words sharp and guttural. Kane froze, raising a fist to halt the team. Shadow's voice came through the comms. Commander, I've got movement on the upper levels. Looks like Vrakael's enforcers. They're sweeping the area. Can you delay them? Already on it, Shadow replied, the faint sound of her rifle firing punctuating her words. Kane pushed forward, his team navigating the labyrinthine corridors until they reached a massive chamber. At its center stood the superweapon, a towering device of alien design, pulsating with energy. It resembled a spire, its surface lined with glowing conduits and pulsing nodes. Elena's breath caught. This isn't just a weapon. It's biological. What does that mean? Forge asked, stepping into the room with his rifle at the ready. It's alive, Elena said, her voice trembling. Or at least part of it is. They've integrated organic components into its design. That's how they're targeting us, adapting to our physiology. Kane's mind raced. Destroying this thing wouldn't be as simple as planting charges. If it was alive, it might react. Forge, Kane said, his tone decisive. Set charges on the structural supports. Elena, find a way to disable its core. Shadow status? Hostiles closing in, Shadow replied. You've got about 2 minutes before they hit your position. Make them regret it, Kane said. Forge worked quickly, his movements precise as he rigged the charges. Elena moved to a console near the weapon, her fingers flying over its alien controls. Kane stood guard, his rifle trained on the corridor. "Commander," Elena said urgently, "this thing is connected to the entire facility. If it goes, so does everything else. Including us." "Then work faster," Kane said, his eyes narrowing. The sound of heavy footsteps echoed closer. The Dominion was coming. Kane's grip tightened on his rifle as the first Threxian soldier appeared, its plasma caster glowing. "Contact!" Kane shouted, firing a burst of plasma that dropped the alien before it could fire. Shadow's voice cut through the chaos. "More incoming! A lot more!" Forge finished planting the last charge and grinned. "Done and dusted. Fall back!" Kane ordered. Elena hesitated, her eyes locked on the weapon. "If we don't disable the core." "Now, Elena!" Kane snapped, grabbing her arm and pulling her away. The team retreated through the corridors, the sound of pursuing soldiers growing louder. Explosions rocked the facility as Forge's charges detonated, shaking the ground beneath their feet. As they reached the exit, Kane glanced back at the glowing spire. Vracael hadn't just built a weapon, he'd built a statement. And Kane was determined to silence it. The team burst out of the Dominion facility, the jungle swallowing them in a chaotic mix of shadow and sound. Behind them, the compound trembled under the strain of Forge's explosions. Debris rained down, glowing fragments of alien metal scattered like dying embers. But there was no time to revel in the destruction. The Threxians were close. The guttural roars of their hunters reverberated through the humid air. "Keep moving!" Kane barked, his voice cutting through the cacophony. He led the team down a narrow ravine, the terrain uneven and treacherous. "Shadow, I need overwatch." "Working on it," Shadow replied, her voice tense. "Got a nest of trees up ahead. I'll cover you." Elena stumbled, her breathing labored. Kane grabbed her arm, steadying her. "Stay with me. We're not done yet." "I'm fine," she panted, adjusting her pack. Her face was pale, but determination burned in her eyes. "Just keep them off us." The team pressed on, their boots pounding against the damp earth. Forge lagged behind, covering their retreat with his plasma rifle. Every few seconds, he stopped to fire a burst, the jungle lighting up with brief flashes of blue energy. "We can't outrun them forever," Forge growled, firing another shot. "These bugs are relentless." Kane didn't respond. He knew Forge was right. The Threxians weren't just chasing them, they were herding them. Pushing them towards something. The comms crackled. "Commander," Shadow called, her voice low. "You're heading into a choke point. It's an ambush." Kane stopped abruptly, holding up a fist. The team skidded to a halt, their breaths ragged. "Options?" he asked. "I can thin their numbers from here," Shadow said. "But you'll need a diversion." Forge grinned, slapping the side of his demolition pack. "I've got plenty of diversions." "Do it," Kane ordered. "Elena, stay close." "Shadow, take the shot when you have it." Forge peeled off, his heavy frame disappearing into the underbrush. The rest of the team moved cautiously, the sounds of pursuit growing louder. Kane could feel the tension in his chest, a primal instinct screaming that danger was near. Shadow's rifle cracked, a sharp, clean sound. The scream of a Threxian soldier followed. Then another. "They're scattering," Shadow reported. "But it won't last." A deafening explosion shook the ground as Forge's charges detonated, sending a plume of dirt and alien viscera into the air. Kane took advantage of the chaos, signaling the team to move. As they emerged from the ravine, the jungle opened into a wide clearing. At its center stood Vracael. The overseer was a towering figure, his exoskeleton gleaming in the faint moonlight. His mandibles clicked rhythmically, a sound that sent a shiver down Kane's spine. "Humans," Vracael said, his voice like grinding stone. "You kill, you destroy, but you cannot escape. This jungle is mine. This war is mine." Kane stepped forward, his rifle raised. Then come and take it. Vracael's mandibles spread wide, a grotesque approximation of a smile. Foolish predator. You don't realize you're the prey. The ground beneath Kane's feet trembled. He rolled to the side just as a massive bioengineered creature burst from the earth. It was one of the Dominion's apex predators, a blend of razor-sharp claws, armored scales, and predatory instinct. Scatter! Kane shouted, firing at the beast. His plasma shouts glanced off its thick hide, leaving only faint scorch marks. Forge emerged from the tree line, launching an explosive that struck the creature's flank. The blast staggered it, but only for a moment. The beast roared, its eyes locking onto Forge. Damn thing's tougher than it looks, Forge muttered, reloading. Shadow's voice crackled in the comms. Commander, I've got a clear shot on Vracael. Do I take it? Negative, Kane said sharply. Focus on the beast. We take it down first. Elena darted to Kane's side, her scanner in hand. Its armor is strongest on its back and legs. Aim for the joints, those are its weak points. Kane nodded, adjusting his aim. Forge, keep it distracted. Shadow, hit the joints when you have a shot. The team worked in brutal synchrony. Forge fired explosives at the creature's head, forcing it to rear up. Shadow's rifle cracked, each shot precise, targeting the vulnerable joints. Kane fired relentlessly, his plasma bursts tearing into the beast's exposed underbelly. Finally, with a guttural roar, the creature collapsed. Its massive body convulsed before falling still, the jungle eerily silent once more. Vracael clapped slowly, his mandibles clicking in mock applause. Impressive. You fight well, humans. But this is where your journey ends. Kane raised his rifle, but before he could fire, Vracael lunged with unnatural speed. The Overseer's claws slashed through the air, narrowly missing Kane as he dove to the side. Shadow, now! Kane shouted. Shadow's rifle cracked, the shot striking Vracael's shoulder. The Overseer roared, his exoskeleton cracking but not breaking. He turned his gaze upward, snarling. Kane took advantage of the distraction, charging forward. He slammed into Vracael with all his strength, knocking the Overseer off balance. You think you can kill me? Vracael hissed, his voice dripping with contempt. I don't think, Kane growled. I do. He fired point-blank into Vracael's chest, the plasma blast punching through the damaged exoskeleton. Vracael staggered, his mandibles twitching in pain. Forge joined the fray, launching another explosive that detonated at Vracael's feet. The Overseer roared, collapsing to one knee. This isn't over. Vracael spat, his voice weakening. Kane leveled his rifle, his finger steady on the trigger. Yes, it is. He fired one last shot, the plasma bolt striking Vracael's head. The Overseer crumpled, his body falling lifeless to the ground. The jungle fell silent once more, the oppressive weight lifting as the team stood victorious. We did it, Forge said, his voice rough with exhaustion. For now, Kane replied, his gaze lingering on Vracael's body. But this war isn't over. Elena stepped forward, her face grim. The weapon, did we stop it? Kane nodded slowly. For now. But we'll need to regroup, rearm, and be ready for what comes next. The team began their trek back through the jungle, their victory hard-won but bittersweet. Each step carried them closer to safety, and further into a war that would test them to their limits.